Breaking right now. The United States just confirmed something absolutely massive. Admiral Brad Cooper, the head of CENTCOM, stood in front of cameras and announced that American forces have destroyed 2/3 of Iran's military production capacity. 2/3. Let that sink in for a moment. We're talking about over 10,000 targets hit across Iran, factories that built missiles, facilities that manufactured drones, command centers that coordinated operations. Gone. And this didn't happen over months or years. This happened in a matter of weeks during one of the most intense military campaigns the Middle East has seen in decades. But here's what makes this even more critical. This announcement came just hours after Iran rejected a 15-point ceasefire proposal from Washington. And now, both sides are staring at each other across a line that keeps getting thinner and thinner. So the question everyone's asking is simple. What happens next? Let me walk you through what's actually happening here, because this story is far bigger than just military strikes. This is about power, pressure, and a gamble that could reshape the entire region. So here's what we know. Admiral Cooper made this announcement from CENTCOM headquarters, and the numbers are staggering. American military forces have conducted strikes on more than 10,000 individual targets inside Iran. These aren't random bombings. These are precision strikes aimed at crippling Iran's ability to wage war. The targets included missile production facilities, drone manufacturing plants, weapon storage depots, and military command structures. Essentially, the backbone of Iran's military-industrial complex has been systematically dismantled. When Cooper said 2/3 of their production capacity is gone, he wasn't exaggerating. This represents years of Iranian investment, decades of infrastructure, reduced to rubble in weeks. Now, you might be wondering, why now? Why this level of destruction? And that's where the story gets really interesting, because just before this announcement, something else happened. The Trump administration put forward a 15-point peace plan, a comprehensive proposal designed to end this conflict. And Iran's response? They called it maximalist and rejected it outright. Instead, Tehran countered with their own 5-point plan. So think about this for a second. The United States just proved it can destroy the majority of Iran's military capabilities. But Iran is still saying no to peace talks. That raises a critical question. Is this about winning a war, or is this about something deeper? Something neither side wants to admit? To understand how we got here, you need to rewind a few months. The tensions between the US, Israel, and Iran have been building for years, but they exploded into open conflict recently. It started with proxy battles, attacks on shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, drone strikes on American bases, rockets fired from Lebanon and Iraq into Israel. Each side kept pushing, and nobody blinked. Then Israel launched major operations in Lebanon, going after Hezbollah. Iran responded by activating militia groups across Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. American forces got dragged in to protect regional allies. And suddenly, what started as a shadow war became a full-scale regional conflict. The death toll tells the story. Over 1,700 killed in Iran, more than 1,000 in Lebanon, nearly 100 in Iraq, 17 in Israel, and 13 American soldiers have died. These aren't just numbers. These are lives lost in a conflict that keeps expanding. Now here's where things get complicated, because this isn't just about military might. This is about leverage. Think of it like a poker game where both players are all in, but neither wants to show their cards. The United States has demonstrated overwhelming military superiority. They've proven they can hit almost anything inside Iran with precision. But military power doesn't always translate to political victory. Iran knows this. That's why they rejected the peace plan. Because accepting it would mean acknowledging defeat. And for the Iranian regime, that's not just about pride. It's about survival. On the other side, Trump and his administration need a win here. They need Iran to come to the table and accept terms. But forcing a proud nation to surrender rarely works cleanly. So you've got this standoff where America has the military advantage, but Iran still holds cards. They control proxy forces across the region. They can disrupt shipping lanes. They can make life difficult for U.S. allies. And that's the real calculation happening behind closed doors right now. Let me break down how this actually unfolded, because the sequence matters. First, American forces began what they called targeted strikes on Iranian military infrastructure. These weren't warnings. These were designed to cripple specific capabilities, especially Iran's missile and drone programs. Then, as the strikes intensified, the Strait of Hormuz became a choke point. Right now, about 2,000 ships are stuck there. 20,000 seafarers stranded. This creates a humanitarian crisis, but it also puts economic pressure on everyone, because the Strait of Hormuz handles a huge portion of global oil traffic. While all this was happening, Iran's allies started acting up. A drone attack hit Kuwait International Airport, striking a fuel tank. Militia groups in Iraq increased attacks on American positions. Hezbollah fired rockets from Lebanon. This is classic Iranian strategy. When you can't fight America head-on, you activate your proxy network and create chaos. That's when the Trump administration decided to make a move. They drafted this 15-point peace proposal. The details aren't fully public, but sources say it included demands for Iran to dismantle its nuclear program, cut support for proxy groups, and accept international monitoring. In exchange, sanctions would be lifted and reconstruction aid would flow. Iran looked at that proposal and said no. Their foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, basically called it a non-starter. He said Washington's changing tone proves they know they're failing. And then Iran countered with their own 5-point plan, which reportedly focuses on ending strikes, lifting sanctions, and maintaining their regional influence. And that's when Admiral Cooper stepped up to the podium and dropped the bomb about destroying 2/3 of Iran's military production. So what does all this mean? Well, regionally, the balance of power has shifted dramatically. Iran's ability to project military force has been severely damaged. Their missile programs, which they use to threaten Israel and U.S. bases, are crippled. Their drone capabilities, which they shared with proxy groups, are decimated. But here's the thing. Military infrastructure can be rebuilt. It takes time and money, but it can be done. What's harder to rebuild is credibility and deterrence. Iran's entire regional strategy was built on the threat of overwhelming retaliation. They wanted everyone to believe that attacking Iran would be too costly. That calculation just changed. For Israel, this is huge. They've been living under the threat of Iranian missiles for years. Now that threat is significantly reduced, at least for the moment. For Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and other Gulf states, this creates an opportunity. They've been nervous about Iranian influence for decades. Now they're watching Iran get pushed back. Globally, this affects energy markets. Oil prices have been volatile throughout this conflict. The situation in the Strait of Hormuz alone has disrupted shipping routes and raised costs. If this escalates further, you could see major economic impacts worldwide. And then there's the bigger question. What message does this send to other countries watching? North Korea is watching. China is watching. Everyone is taking notes on what happens when you challenge American military power directly. Looking ahead, there are really 3 possible paths this could take. First scenario, Iran realizes they can't win militarily and comes back to negotiations. They accept some version of the U.S. peace plan, maybe with modifications that let them save face. Sanctions get lifted, reconstruction begins, and the region slowly stabilizes. Second scenario, Iran digs in. They refuse to negotiate and instead double down on proxy warfare. They activate every militia group they support. They disrupt shipping. They make the region ungovernable. This turns into a long, grinding conflict with no clear end. Third scenario, and this is the one that keeps people up at night. Escalation. Iran feels cornered and does something desperate. Maybe they will try to close the Strait of Hormuz completely. Maybe they launch whatever missiles they have left in a massive salvo. Maybe they activate sleeper cells to attack American or Israeli targets. And then things spiral completely out of control. Right now, it feels like we're in this tense moment where both sides are trying to figure out which path we're on. The U.S. is betting that massive military pressure will force Iran to negotiate. Iran is betting that resistance and proxy warfare will make the cost too high for America to continue. Here's what I keep thinking about. 2/3 of a nation's military production capacity destroyed in weeks. That's not just a military achievement. That's a statement, a message to Tehran and to the world. But destroying things is always easier than building peace. The real test isn't whether America can hit targets. They've proven they can. The real test is whether anyone can find a way to end this that doesn't leave the region even more unstable than before. Because right now we're watching a conflict where both sides have reasons to fight and reasons to stop, but neither seems willing to be the first to blink. And that's what makes the next few days absolutely critical.